Hello and welcome to Big Orbit's Cardfight Vanguard weekly update. My name is James, and yes, I haven't done this for a few weeks. I have been off for a while. So this week I will be covering things for the last 3 or 4 weeks. So instead of going over every single card, I have just picked out the important cards, the triple R's, the double R's, maybe things that aren't high rarity, but they're still quite interesting. So right off the bat, we have some fantastic deleter support, starting with the grade 3 Dark Jet Deleter Grey End. His first skill is Act Vanguard Circle, counterblast one card with Deleter in its card name and choose 2 of your rear guards with Deleter in their card names and retire them. Delete all of your opponent's Vanguards. Retiring 2 units is pretty big, but after looking at the other cards, it does make it a little better. He also has the on-stride ability of Auto Vanguard Circle. When your G unit with Deleter in its original card name strides, reveal the top card of your deck. If that card is a card with Deleter in its card name, call it to Rear Guard Circle, and if it is not, put it into your drop zone. Choose one of your units, it gets plus 2000 power until the end of turn. Your opponent chooses 2 cards from his or her drop zone and binds them face down. Superior Cool and Vanish Delete 2? This is pretty intense for deleters. Like, they haven't really been very good when it comes to support in the past, but this grade 3 is actually pretty up there in terms of striders. We also have seen a couple of commons that cool the top card when being retired, helping to reduce the cost of the first skill, and just reinforcing they have this ability of now superior calling the top card. It is quite gold paladin-y, but they deserve it a little bit more than Gear Chronicle who took the gold paladin thing for some reason. For Deleter Stride, we have Deliberate Deleter Ahodayan. His skill is Act Vanguard Circle once per turn, choose a face down card from your G zone with the same name as this unit and turn it face up, and choose one of your rear guards with Deleter in its card name and retire it. If you have a heart card with Deleter in its card name, delete all your opponent's Vanguards, and all the units in your front row get plus 2000 power until the end of turn for each face-up card in your G-zone with the same name as this unit. Deleters needed a first stride that deletes, as before they had to use stuff like Judgment Messiah and things that really didn't help them at all. And the power buff helps the stride denier to hit. Also, no counterblast needed, which will really help considering the stride denier costs a counterblast just for the chance that you will use his skill if the attack hits. Blaming Deleter Abirus is Deleter's G-Guardian, so they finally won't have to use G-Guardians that were clearly made for Messiah or not anything else. His skill is Auto Counterblast 1 and Soul Blast 1 when this unit is placed on Guardian Circle. If you have a Vanguard with Deleter in its card name, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose up to 3 units in your opponent's front row, and they get minus 1000 power until the end of turn for each face-up Deleter in its card name on your Vanguard Circle, Rear Guard Circle, and G-Zone. You'll struggle to get this power debuff too high, but it will affect 3 units, which make much more worth it. It also means if your opponent isn't great at buffing their rear guards, that they will lose all chance of being able to hit your Vanguard. Deleters don't have too much trouble with Soul either, though you may have to switch your strategy up a little bit if you plan on using this a lot. And lastly for Deleters, I'll talk about Higher Deleter, Fallen. His first skill makes him a stride fodder for Deleters as long as you have a Deleter Vanguard and you're striding into a Deleter. His second skill is Auto Counterblast 1 when this card is discarded from hand for the cost of stride. If you have a Vanguard with Deleter in its original card name, you may pay the cost. If you do, call this card to Rear Guard Circle. This will help a lot with retiring skills, and it has a great skill while still keeping its 7k base power. The counterblasting may get quite heavy, so try to use this cool skill when striding into a Hodayan, rather than Agorg, who will use a second counterblast with its own skill. Glendios gets a great new stride with Death Star Vader Omega Fall Glendios. The first skill is Act Vanguard Circle once per turn, choose a face down card from your G zone with the same card name as this unit and turn it face up, and choose 2 of your rear guards with backwards R in their card names, meaning the reverse units, and retire them. Your opponent chooses cards from his or her damage zone, as many as possible, and puts them into separate rearguard circles as locked cards. Chooses the same number of cards from his or her drop zone, as the number of cards that were put puts them into his or her damage zone, and your opponent's locked cards cannot be unlocked during his or her next end phase. It looks like deleters aren't the only ones who are going to have an easier time getting their alternate win condition, especially when you take into account Omega 4's second ability of act Vanguard Circle once per turn, counterblast 1, draw a card and deal 1 damage to this unit. Now it's common for people when they're going against the Glendios deck to keep the opponent at 4 damage. This is to prevent the ultimate break at 5 damage, which can cause them to win the game. It suddenly becomes a lot easier to Omega lock 5 units, making you win at the beginning of your next turn. Star Vader Crucible is a little grade 2 Glendios support with auto Vanguard Circle, Rearguard Circle, Counterblast 1, and choose a card from your hand and discard it. At the end of the battle that this unit attacked Vanguard, you may pay the cost. If you do, look at the top 10 cards from your deck, reveal up to 2 cards with the backwards R in their card name from among them, put them into your hand and shuffle your deck. Dropping 1 to get 2 is nothing to sniff at. Even only getting 1 means sacrificing a card you probably don't need for a card you definitely do need. It also makes the retire effect of Omega Fall feel a little lighter. Not to mention, it gets rid of the cards in your deck with no shield, meaning you have a better chance of drawing into good shield and triggers. Star Vader have a very decent semi-generic stride, Death Star Vader Glue Ball Dragon. Now when I say semi-generic, it can't be used by anything outside of Star Vader, but seeing as Star Vader seems to have gone into various cliques, such as Chaos, Infinite, and Glendios, being just part of Star Vader seems quite rare these days, and Star Vader take up such a big portion of Link Joker anyway, that it may as well be all of Link Joker. His first skill is act Vanguard Circle once per turn, Soul Blast 1 and choose a face down card from your G-Zone with the same name as this unit and turn it face up. If you have a heart card with Star Vader in its card name, your opponent chooses one of his or her rear guards for each face up card in your G-Zone and locks it. This is incredibly good, as it doesn't take long at all to be able to lock your opponent's whole field, especially his Glue Ball G Persona Blasts. He also has continuous Vanguard Circle, Generation Break 3. All of your units with Star Vader in their card name in the front row get plus 3000 power for each of your opponent's locked cards. Very Nebula Lord Dragon. This suddenly gives Star Vaders much more push than they had before, with them normally being quite a defensive group. It's going to be a lot harder to just wait for Chaos to deck out now. Speaking of Chaos, the new Chaos Grade 3 is here as Star Vader Chaos Breaker Crisis. His first auto Vanguard Circle counterblast 1 card with Star Vader in its card name. When this unit is placed on Vanguard Circle, or when your G unit with Star Vader in its original card name strides, you may pay the cost. If you do, your opponent chooses one of his or her rear guards and locks it. This does mean you can use this skill to lock 2 units a turn by riding and then striding on the same turn, but it would be expensive for counterblasts and hand. It can hurt a bit for your opponent to choose which card to lock. His second skill is Auto Vanguard Circle. When your opponent's locked card is unlocked, if no unit was retired with this unit's effect this turn, you may retire one of those unlocked units. If you do, draw a card. This is very similar to original Chaos Breaker, but you can only use it once. The one good thing about it is that it doesn't cost a Soul Blast, and if you get greedy with the old Chaos Breaker's skill, you often lose to deck out anyway. Being able to lock one every turn is still good, and your opponent isn't always going to have a lot of rear guards to choose from. Messiah have a double R grade 2, Lady Fencer of the Mass Transfer. Her first auto, when this card is placed on Rearguard Circle, or when it is unlocked, if you have a Messiah Vanguard, this unit gets plus 2000 power until the end of turn. And she has auto Rearguard Circle, Generation Break 1, Counterblast 1. When this unit attacks, if you have a Messiah Vanguard, you may pay the cost. If you do, Soul Charge 1, this unit gets plus 5000 power until the end of the battle, and at the end of the battle, lock this unit. This is fantastic, along with Sacrifice Messiah, to lock the whole column, which will hopefully allow you to have stronger extra attacks, and also allows you to nullify the counterblast cost. So in short, she's pretty good on her own, and becomes really good with Sacrifice Messiah. That's all the cards I'll go through for the clan booster this week, but we have the trial decks Alter Ego Neo Messiah. Her first skill is Auto Vanguard Circle. When your Messiah G unit strides, choose up to 1 card from your hand, call it to Rearguard Circle. Choose up to 1 of all players' rear guards and lock them. Luckily, there are so many Messiah strides that fulfilling that requirement isn't hard. And locking one of yours and your opponent's cards is good for setup and for a disadvantage on your opponent's side. You can even lock one of theirs and not lock one of yours, or the other way. Her second skill is Auto Vanguard Circle Generation Break 2, Soul Blast 1. At the end of the turn, if a locked card was unlocked this turn due to an effect from one of your cards, you may pay the cost. If you do, draw 2 cards. As the unlock has to be from a skill, you're not going to be able to get the draw from at the end of turn unlock like before. A few GPT-13 cards have been revealed, as well as some decent information. It will be introducing a new rarity, the ZR, which will be the rarity of the new Zeroth dragons, that are strides that can be used in any clan of the specified nation. I'll go through them a little more, but quickly we also have some confirmed RRR reprints for this set. The reprints are Black Shiver Gavrail for Angel Feather, Emperor Dragon Gaia Emperor for Tachikaze, Great Warrior Dudley Geronimo for Spike Brothers, and Martial Dragon Tetra Boil Dragon and One Who Surpasses the Storm Thavas, both for Aquaforce. Now, we can see 2 Zeroth dragons in the cover art. It shows Zeroth Dragon of the Distant Sea, Megiddo, which is a unit that can be used in any clan from Magallanica. That includes Aquaforce, Grand Blue, and Bermuda Triangle. And it shows Zeroth Dragon of Inferno, Dracuma, who can be used in any Dragon Empire clan, which are Kagero, Nubatama, Murakumo, Narukami, and Tachikaze. They also have a leader, Dragon Deity of Destruction, Giz, who we can expect to see the set after the final Zeroth Dragon has been shown, and will most likely be an available stride for all clans to use. For the shown cards of GPT-13, we have a couple of Maelstrom cards, the first one being the Grade 3 Blue Storm Supreme Dragon Lordly Maelstrom. His on-stride skill is Auto Vanguard Circle Counterblast 1. When your G unit with Maelstrom in its original card name strides, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose a card from your drop zone, put it into your soul, choose up to one of your Blue Storm in its card name from your hand, call it to Rearguard Circle, and until the end of turn, it gets Auto Rearguard Circle once per turn. At the end of the battle that this unit attacked, stand this unit. And his second skill is Auto Vanguard Circle Generation Break 2, Counterblast 1 at the end of your turn. If there were 4 or more attacks this turn, you may pay the cost. If you do, draw a card, your opponent chooses one of his or her rear guards and retires it. Having 2 Counterblasts is pretty expensive, and you can't really expect to use both skills every turn unless Maelstrom get some seriously good countercharge support. But to show how important the soul ability is, we have the stride for Maelstrom, Blue Storm Crusher Dragon Engulf Maelstrom. His first skill is Continuous Vanguard Circle, wave 4th time only. For the battle that this unit attacked, your opponent cannot call cards from hand and G zone with less than the number of cards with Maelstrom in their card name in your soul. So the longer the game goes on for, the harder and harder it will be for your opponent to guard. If you miraculously get your soul to 5 Maelstroms in it, you can just prevent your opponent from guarding entirely, which is rather ridiculous, though it's not likely to happen. He also has Act Vanguard Circle once per turn. Choose a face-down card from your G-Zone and turn it face-up. If the number of face-up cards with Maelstrom in their card names in your G-Zone are 2 or more, this unit gets plus 5,000 power and plus 1 critical until the end of the turn. Simple, but helps you continue to increase the pressure on your opponent. We also have a few nice promos shown. Now, despite the Japanese pronunciation of this card, which seems to be the reason the name has been spelled like it has in the fan translation, I'm pretty sure this card is supposed to be Messianic Lord Blaster and not Messianic, as Messianic isn't a real word, and it seems the meaning of Messianic is what they were going for. Anyway, he is a grade 4 normal unit with Auto Vanguard Circle. When your drive check reveals a grade 2 or greater card with Blaster in its card name, you may call that card to Rearguard Circle. If you called a unit, this unit gets that unit's original power until the end. Then, if that unit has Blaster Blade in its card name, this unit gets plus 1 critical until the end of the turn. This card does have a good idea behind it, but falls a little short with it only having Twin Drive, making it a lot harder to pull off the skill. Also, in Blaster decks, you are likely going to superior call Blaster Blades from deck with other skills, thus reducing the amount of Blaster Blades to be targeted by this unit. It's a fun idea, and will probably cause your opponent to overguard like crazy, though most of the time you may as well just stride. Planetary Corpse King Brant for Link Joker, however, is a card I find to be really cool. He has Vanguard Circle Counterblast 2. When this unit attacks, or when it is attacked, if the number of cards in your damage zone is the same or greater than your opponent's, you may pay the cost. If you do, until the end of the battle, the effects other than power plus 5000 from your opponent's trigger effects change to critical. Choose all of your Vanguards and it gets -1 critical until the end of that battle. Draw. Choose one of your rear guards and retire it. Stand. Choose one of your stood rear guards and rest it. And heal. Deal 1 damage to your Vanguard. This ability is actually amazing and is the first time we've ever seen something interact negatively with triggers other than just negating the abilities. What I find quite funny is that if your opponent gets a heal, that causes yet another trigger check, giving you better chance of your opponent getting more triggers. It's a shame that he isn't a deleter, which would make sense for him to be, as Brant is the name of the planet that the deleters are from, making this their king or just a humanoid form of their planet. But maybe he can be his own crazy deck. Lastly for this week, we have another Link Joker promo, Rewind Dragon. He's a grade 3 with 10k power, which usually seems pretty bad, but his skill is act, but rearguard circle, retire this unit. Choose any number of locked cards, put them into the drop zone, and if the number of cards you put in was 2 or more, draw 2 cards. Though locking is generally better than retiring, if you really need to get rid of some rear guards that you know are going to cause you more trouble, this gives you a great chance to just snipe them away. And drawing 2 is pretty well worth the skill. And that is all for this week. Next week, the whole weekly updates will be going back to normal. It will be going through all the cards shown throughout the next 7 days. So this was just sort of what happens when holidays happen, stuff like that. Yeah, so be sure to check out next week when I will be going through those cards, and I hope you enjoyed watching. Bye!